All right, new year, new setup, new content schedule, and a new book to read. Yep, this is gonna be a good one. Okay. Don't have to worry about that for a while. Oh, son of a bitch! I guess we're talking about this now. So, just to further prove that the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise has become a tentacled hellworm that consumes and defecates and then consumes its own defecation, we now have a novelization of the movie of the video game. Now, I had initially decided not to talk about this because I passed on reviewing the Silver Eyes trilogy graphic novel adaptation for a similar reason. That being, it's essentially the same story in a different format. Why would I review the same story again? What else would there be to talk about? The art style? It blows. That's the review. But as the novelization's official release date drew closer, we started getting, snippets. Particularly this one, where it makes a very explicit reference to a character staring at some woman's breasts. And not just any character, Doug the lawyer. Blasphemy! How dare you portray the best character in the movie as some kind of ogling pervert? Doug deserves better than that. His actor has his own TikTok account, for Christ's sake.
This is my first time on TikTok. I'm an old guy. And looking around here, I keep thinking, I shouldn't be hearing any of this.
But Doug slander aside, it was a reminder to me that novels, simply put, can tell stories in a different way than movies. You can explore different narrative avenues that otherwise would not translate well on film. You can pace things differently or make them longer. And in the case of novelization specifically, you can completely change or reinterpret events that transpired one way in the movie. So with all that weighing on me, I finally caved and I bought the FNaF movie, the novel, for myself. Is it worth it? Does it offer some new perspective on the story we already know? Is the narrative so unique that it has to be experienced separately from the movie? No. Seriously, this was not anything really different. If you want a recap of the story, just watch my review of the movie, or just go watch the movie yourself. I mean, I guess there was no reason to expect anything more. Maybe there was the hope there'd be something worthwhile, but no. You know, I've avoided novelizations like the plague ever since 3rd grade when I read the junior novelization of The Lost World Jurassic Park. I should have listened to 8-year-old Nick. Maybe then I could have saved $10. Okay, but seriously, I did make notes of all the little deviations and weird things that I noticed in the book that I did not remember from the movie. Pause the video if you want, but I'm going to talk about the ones that I think are worth mentioning. They gave Max, the babysitter, some more character. They make her romantically interested in Mike, even emphasizing how she deliberately wears low-cut shirts whenever he's around. Nice. And that it's her jealousy of Mike never noticing her that ultimately convinces her to go along with Aunt Jane's plan. Weird, but technically an improvement, I guess. And speaking of romance, Mike's feelings towards Vanessa are much more obvious in the novelization. I guess this is one of those things that I mentioned earlier about novels getting away with things that you couldn't easily portray in movies, and this is something new. But since the actual plot doesn't deviate from the movie, the romance, therefore, doesn't develop into anything more than what we've already seen. They tried recreating the shadows from Max's death scene in the novel, and it made no sense because they tried having Max see the shadows on the wall even though she's stuffed headfirst down Freddy's gullet. I reread this passage like 3 times and the physics did not add up. Like, were they contractually obligated to include that scene in the adaptation? One thing the book kind of addressed that I pointed out during the movie is that Abby is technically a grief child, a kid conceived in the wake of the death of a previous child, and that Mike mentions how his mother fell into an even deeper depression when their new baby was a girl and not a boy like Garrett. Okay, book, okay. I did appreciate how Mike's family dynamic got some more backstory, however. And that's about it with the differences worth mentioning. However, I did find that while reading this book, I was able to put into words an issue that I had with all the Faz books before. Throughout sequences that are supposed to be tense or frightening, there are these redundant, almost casual phrases that bring the momentum to a grinding halt so the reader can read more words. Here's a perfect example. A small, bright pink cupcake with a toothy mouth was chewing its way through Carl's face, or what was left of it. Carl, Hank breathed. The truth was, Carl no longer had a face. The cupcake was burrowed halfway into Carl's head. Whatever horror is there in this sequence is tarnished by this toneless expression of redundancy. You could take it out entirely, the reader would still get the same information while being forced to really imagine the implications of the prior phrase, what was left of it, and the flow of the scene would be a lot more crisp and natural. It may sound like I'm harping too much on this one transgression, but it happens a lot throughout the text. I'm not sure if this is Andrea Wagner's writing style or if the publishers pushed them to make certain scenes more accessible. I don't know. It just doesn't work in the context of horror. Not only that, but there were sentences that didn't make sense. There was a really annoying overuse of ellipses, and they forgot a period. There's a sentence in this book that doesn't sentence. This book went through editors, presumably. How could you forget a period? Did you use them up when you were typing out all those ellipses? Embarrassing! All this just tells me that this book was, again, rushed and didn't get the treatment it deserved. It's so telling of the absolute state of FNaF right now, with all these controversies and missteps and low-quality products coming to a head. It's kind of depressing, to be honest. But hey, it happens to franchises that grow this big and successful. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Get mad that FNaF is successful? Of all the FNaF literature I've reviewed, this one seems the least bit consequential and therefore the least deserving of any passions, which, you know, whatever, I guess I kind of brought it on myself. Overall, this book was not worth my time, and probably not worth your time either, unless you collect FNaF physical media or something like that. And to be honest, this review's mainly to fill the gap between my last video and my upcoming audio narration of Night of the Hare, which I have to keep pushing back, unfortunately. But I assure you it's coming, and there's even more surprises in store before it drops. So thanks for sticking with me. I hope this video wasn't as big a waste of time as the book was, but as always, see you all next time.